Hello, third graders. I'm back for our fifth day of junior achievement. It's Michelle Fels with RCB Bank, and let's just do a little bit of a review of what we talked about in the past. We've talked about ways to spend money. We talked about invisible money. So what is invisible money? We talked about 4 different ways that you can use money. What were those 4 ways? Oh, that's right. Spending, saving, earning, and donating. I think spending might be my favorite, but I've got to earn it to spend it. And then we talked about being an entrepreneur and planning your own business and all the steps you'd have to take to start that business. We talked about what is a producer, what is a consumer. And then yesterday, we talked about government and taxes. And we talked about money and the way it moves around our city. So today, we're going to talk about our city some more, and we're going to do a little bit of designing. So today, you get to help design a building. And when you're designing that building, you need to think about, where does this fit in our city? Where would I put it? Well, where you put it is really important to think about, because if you remember, you talked about City Hall yesterday. There are city planners at City Hall, and they plan where certain buildings can go in our city. And so that's why when you drive downtown, you see a lot of businesses together. Or you live in your home and you have a lot of other homes around you. That's done by city planners. And they have determined what they call zones. And so when you design your building, you're going to say, what zone would I put it in? And you're like, what's a zone? Do any of you have any idea of what a zone is? Well, a zone is what type of building can go in this particular area of our city. And the zones have names. So the names of our zones we're going to talk about today are housing zones. That's where you might see houses or apartments or townhomes. And then you have the business zone. And the business zone is where you're going to see restaurants and grocery stores or Walmarts and Targets and those kind of buildings. And then you have the industrial zone. That's one you don't talk about very much, but industrial zone is where you're going to see our factories or maybe an airport. So does anybody know where our factories are here in Lawrence? Well, if you look north of town, you can kind of see some smoke up in the air. That is the area that a lot of our factories are at. There's a dog food store there, or dog food factory. I guess it's not a store. And there's a place that makes boxes. And there's a place that makes organs, like you would play music on. So there's a lot of different industrial factories here in our community. And then you have the agricultural zone. And I'll kind of use this. When I was growing up, I grew up on a farm. And so a farm is an agricultural zone. And here in town, you might see little pockets of agricultural where basically vegetables or grains are grown. Those are agricultural zones. You might see an actual grain silo, and that's where people will take the grains that they basically grow to be stored. And so those are things to look for. And then the last zone is multi-purpose. And that is where you might have a couple of zones that are mixed together. You might have a few houses, and then it changes to a restaurant that's kind of close by some of the houses. For example, if you drive across the bridge in North Lawrence, You can turn on to, I think it's Lincoln Street, and you'll see some houses. And then there's a nice Mexican restaurant and another Mexican restaurant. And then you'll see some more houses. That's the multi-purpose zone. So it's where they're kind of all together. So you ask yourself, why do we have these zones? Why is it important to put certain buildings in certain places? Well, let's just use an airport as an example. Would you want an airport right beside your home? Would you want airports going out all night, all day, making loud noises? There to be a little bit of a smell from the airplanes. Would you want that right by your house? I know I wouldn't. I know my dogs would be barking at those airplanes all day long. So it's probably a good thing I don't live by an airport. And so when you look at our city, you might drive around and say, I wonder what zone this is. And when you look at the businesses, maybe you're designing your building or you're looking at the businesses as you're driving around, you need to ask yourself, who are the producers for this business? Who works there? And you say, who are the consumers? So if you look at a bakery here in town, you've got the baker, you've got people that work the cash register. And then, if you're the one going in and buying the bread, you're the consumer. So it's important as you look at the businesses around our great city, you're asking yourself those questions and getting to understand why Lawrence is such a great place to live and to work, to earn money, and to use our services. It's been great spending the last 5 lessons with you. I look forward to hopefully seeing you next year, and you have a great rest of the school year.